Very good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome back to history class. Very important chapter of this mass movement, mass phase of the national movement, that is from starting from 1915 to 1947. Very important chapter of Indian national freedom struggle. Okay, in this that is why this chapter completely, almost entire chapter you will have to learn as an examination point of view and as well as for your reference also as a national movement. Very important concept. Mass phase of the national movement starting from 15 to 47. Mahatma Gandhi and the national movement. Mahatma Gandhi, in this lesson almost everything you will have to study for the examination purpose except the early life of Mahatma Gandhi. Rest of the concept, non-cooperation movement, causes, Khilafat movement, Rowlatt Act and Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, program and suspension, Chauri Chaura incident and impact of the movement, the civil disobedience movement, causes, reaction to the Simon Commission, declaration of Purna Swaraj of the Lahore session of 1929, Dandi March, program and impact of the movement, Gandhi-Irwin Pact and the second round table conference. The Quit India movement, causes, failure of the Cripps mission, Japanese threat, Quit India resolution and the significance of the movement. All these, almost all are important in this lesson. You can't omit anything except the early life of Mahatma Gandhi. But before moving on to the main concept, that is non-cooperation movement, you should know about his life, early life. So just we can have a little glance about his early life and then we will move on to the main concept, that is non-cooperation movement. Mahatma Gandhi was born in 1869 at Porbandar in the Kathiawar district of Gujarat. His father was the Diwan of Rajkot state. In 1888, he went to England. Just you see, calculate the age at that time. 1869. He was born in 1869 and he went to England at the age of 19 years. He went to England to study law. On completing his studies, he came back to India and started practicing law at Rajkot. But from 1893 to 1914, he practiced law in South Africa. Again, he went to South Africa and he practiced law in South Africa. In South Africa, on a journey by train from Durban to Pretoria, he was forcibly thrown out of a first class compartment even though he had a valid ticket. Gandhiji was hurt by the racial injustice and discrimination to which Indians had to submit in South Africa. Indians could not travel with the Europeans and were not allowed to enter the hotels and clubs meant for the Europeans. This kind of discrimination was shown in South Africa towards Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji soon became the leader of the struggle for justice in South Africa. So he started his freedom, his struggle from South Africa itself on behalf of Indians. During 1893 to 1914, he was engaged in heroic struggle against the racist authorities in South Africa. He formed the Natal Indian Congress and suffered imprisonment. He went to prison also. He started his non-violent civil disobedience movements to protest against the discriminating treatment meted out to the Indians. The South African government had to listen to the voice of reason and in 1914 repealed most of the unjust acts against the Indians. This was the first success of Gandhiji's journey. Thus, it was during this struggle that Mahatma Gandhi evolved the technique of satyagraha or non-violent resistance based on truth and non-violence. Gandhiji returned to India in January 1915 and spent the next 4 years in studying the Indian situation. He returned to India, very important. When did he return to India? From South Africa. Please note down. You can make as a question because it can be asked in any of the competitive exams. He returned to India 1915 from South Africa and he took time, 4 years of time to study during that time what was the situation, conditions, circumstances of Indians. During the course of 1917 and early in this course, in 1917 and 1918, he was involved in three significant struggles while studying the circumstances and situation of our India. At the same time, he involved in three important struggles. Then that is Champaran at Bihar, in Ahmedabad and at Kheda in Gujarat. Three important struggles he involved, and also he succeeded also. Three moments. Only just you know about at Champaran Satyagraha, he fought on behalf of indigo cultivators, and at Ahmedabad Satyagraha, he fought for the rights of mill workers, and at Kheda Satyagraha, he fought for the peasants, on behalf of the peasants who were suffered to pay the revenues. Especially during the natural calamities also, peasants were forced to pay the revenues, so that he fought on behalf of them and succeeded in three struggles, significant struggles, very important, my dear students. And besides that, Gandhiji, what were the methods he used, methods and directions? Just have a glance. Satyagraha, doctrine of non-violence, Swadeshi and mass movement. These four methods he used to attain Swaraj or independence. Once again, Satyagraha or non-violence, doctrine of non-violence, Swadeshi and mass movement. Here, what is non-cooperation movement? The first movement which was led by Mahatma Gandhi was non-cooperation movement. In the word itself we can see that meaning non-cooperating. With whom non-cooperation? With the British government. Let us see the introduction. During the First World War, the Congress cooperated with the British. Even Gandhiji, do you recall the duration of the First World War, 1914 to 1918. During this period, our Indian National Congress, forcibly or willingly or unwillingly, they also cooperated with the British. Even Gandhiji urged the Gujarati peasants to join the army if they wanted to win Swaraj. But the events of 1919, like Khilafat wrongs, passing of Rowlatt Act and the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, greatly disillusioned Gandhiji. He turned from a cooperator to a non-cooperator and decided to start the non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation is a way of protesting in which one does not cooperate with the evildoer. What is the definition is important here. Here, First World War, the Congress cooperated with the British, but after, as a result, in 1919, after the First World War, the events which took place in our India, like Khilafat movement and passing of Rowlatt Act and Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, all these events disillusioned Gandhiji, and he turned as, even Gandhiji earlier he asked to support the British, but later he became as a non-cooperator. So he turned from a cooperator to non-cooperator and decided to start non-cooperation movement. Here definition is important. What is non-cooperation? It is a way of protesting in which one does not cooperate with the evildoer. Okay, my dear. Next we will discuss about the important causes that led to the non-cooperation movement. Very important concept, my dear. These three causes are very important. Without any of these concepts, there is no question paper. And causes that led to the non-cooperation movement. 3. Rowlatt Act. The first and foremost cause, Rowlatt Act. And receiving a report from the Sedition Committee headed by Justice Rowlatt, 2 bills were introduced in the Central Legislature in February 1919. The purpose of the bills was to curb the growing upsurge in the country. What is the main purpose of these 2 bills which were headed by the Justice Rowlatt? To stop the growing upsurge in the country. In spite of opposition from the Indians, the Rowlatt Act was passed in March. Rowlatt Act, since it was headed by Justice Rowlatt, it is called as Rowlatt Act, was passed on the spot in 1919. This act authorized the government to imprison any person without trial and convict him in a court. Imprison any person without showing any arrest warrant, as well as without submitting him in front of the court. At any time the British can imprison him. So here what are other points implied in this Rowlatt Act means arrest of a person without warrant, in camera trial, that means trial in seclusion. Seclusion is nothing but isolation. Taking the person, keeping the person after first thing, arrest of a person without any warrant, without showing any warrant, according to Rowlatt Act, which was passed in 1919. Very important, my dear. What was Rowlatt Act means? Under this Rowlatt Act, the British government can imprison any person without trial and convict him in a court. And here, what are the other points involved here? The British government can arrest any Indian person without warrant. Second point, they can take him to the seclusion, that is to isolation. They can keep him in isolation. Third one, restrictions on movement of individuals. And fourth one, under the Rowlatt Act, suspension of the right of habeas corpus. Do you remember what is this habeas corpus? Our constitution, actually, even in our constitution, they provide writs to protect the rights of Indian citizens. In the constitution, writs are provided. 5 writs, main writs: habeas corpus, quo warranto, certiorari, mandamus. These 5 types of writs are provided to protect the individual rights of the citizens of India, right? Of course, during the British government time also there were these writs were there, but according to the Rowlatt Act, under Rowlatt Act, they suspended the habeas corpus. What is habeas corpus? Under this writ, a person who is imprisoned, who has been arrested, he should be submitted or reported in a court within 24 hours. He must be reported in a court within 24 hours. But based on this, if this habeas corpus writ is there, then our Indians can fight with this writ to submit the person whom the British had arrested. So if they suspended, then our Indians could not question them. So all these 4 are involved in the Rowlatt Act. So what was the impact of Rowlatt Act? The act came like a sudden blow to the Indians who were expecting self-governance. Gandhiji appealed to the Viceroy to withhold his consent to such measures. However, his appeal was ignored. He started Satyagraha as a challenge to the government. Now, his Satyagraha, non-cooperation. The Rowlatt Satyagraha emerged as the first all India struggle against the British government. However, it was largely confined to cities only. In April 1919, there occurred a number of demonstrations and strikes in the country. The British government took brutal measures to suppress this anti-British struggle. In fact, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre on the orders of General Dyer in Amritsar on April 13, 1919 also was a part of this repression. However, an important feature of the Rowlatt Satyagraha was Hindu-Muslim unity. It was also, we can consider as one of the impact of this Rowlatt Act. Okay, Hindu-Muslim became united. This was the call given. This was the call given by Mahatma Gandhi, who always saw an unified India belonging to the people of all religions: Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, and Parsis. He wanted that Hindus and Muslims should support each other in any just cause. So here, what are the important concepts you will have to focus? What was Rowlatt Act? And Rowlatt Act means all the 4 points you will have to mention. And next, what was the impact of Rowlatt Act? And the main impact was, there was important feature was Hindu-Muslim unity, and other important impacts also. Please do learn, students. Very, very important concept, Rowlatt Act. Year also. Next important cause which led to the non-cooperation was Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. A large but peaceful crowd gathered at the Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar on April 13, 1919 to protest against the arrest of leaders like Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal. Already there was a Rowlatt Act was passed which was made as arrest our Indians who were demonstrating them without any arrest warrant, and making them isolated, and cancellation of suspension of the habeas corpus. These were made, but for that reason our Indian leaders were doing in a peaceful way. They gathered to protest against the arrest of some leaders. Then Jallianwala Bagh had only one exit. Its other three sides were enclosed by buildings. General Dyer, the military commander of Amritsar, surrounded the Bagh with his soldiers. After closing the exit with his troops, he ordered them to shoot at the crowd. The troops kept on firing till their ammunition was exhausted. About 1,000 innocent demonstrators were killed and many more wounded also. The conscience of the nation was shaken at the massacre of innocent people. On learning about this gruesome massacre, Rabindranath Tagore expressed the pain and anger of the country by renouncing his knighthood, that is, giving up the honor granted by the British Crown for exceptional personal achievement or public service. He was honored by knighthood, a title. He renounced his title to show his pain and anger towards the tragedy which was shown again towards the innocent people. He renounced his title also, which was given honored by the British government. After the massacre, the British government made a half-hearted attempt at constitutional reforms. Only with half-hearted attempts they made in the constitutional reforms, but it also made it clear that it had no intention of parting with political power or sharing it with Indians. The British government also refused to annul the Rowlatt Act and make amends for the atrocities in Punjab. So this was the another reason which led to the non-cooperation movement. Very important, Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. As a result, what was the impact of tragedy also? You please do learn. Next, third reason which led to the non-cooperation movement, Khilafat movement. In the First World War, Turkey was defeated and the Ottoman Empire was divided. Of course, once again you recall the duration of the First World War, 1914 to 18. There in Europe, Turkey was defeated by the British because British fought against Turkey. So as a result here, it had the impact in our Indian Muslim population. In India, Muslim population also turned against the British. They stopped to support the British. Got it? So because there British fought against Turkey, Turkey was ruled by the Caliph, who was deprived all the authorities. Caliph was considered as the head of the Muslims, all the religious head of the Muslims. So this Caliph had deprived from all his authorities after defeating. So then they felt that any weakening of the Caliph's position would adversely affect the position of the Muslims at any part of the world. So in the First World War, the British fought against Turkey. Here in India, our Indian Muslims, the Muslim population in India started a powerful agitation which was known as Khilafat movement. Under the leadership of Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, Maulana Azad, Hakim Azmal Khan and Hazrat Mohani, under the leadership of these leaders, Khilafat movement was started and as against the Britishers by the Muslim population in India. The Khilafat is formed a 3-point program. So here if they want to get support from the Muslim population, the British had to accept 3 points, 3 programs. What were those? The Ottoman Caliph should retain his empire. Then the Caliph must be left with sufficient territory to enable him to defend the Islamic faith, and the Arab lands, that is Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Palestine, must remain under the Muslim rule. Khilafat Day was observed on October 17, 1919 on an All India scale. Please do underline the date. Then Gandhiji saw in the Khilafat movement an opportunity for uniting Hindus and Muslims. So this he wanted. Now here he thought that this is the best time, right time to use this opportunity to unite both Hindus and Muslims, and he advised the Khilafat committee to adopt a policy of non-cooperation with the government. It is not required, the quotation which he mentioned, it's not, the quote is not important. No? He advised the Khilafat committee to adopt a policy of non-cooperation with the government. Then by August 31st, 1920, the Khilafat non-cooperation movement started. Both merged together. Khilafat movement and non-cooperation movement both merged together and started as Khilafat non-cooperation movement. People resigned from government services. Shops selling foreign goods were picketed. Students boycotted schools and colleges, and hartals and demonstrations were held. By the end of 1920, the Khilafat movement and the Congress non-cooperation movement merged into one nationwide movement. 1921, the Khilafat Committee appealed to the Muslims not to join the police and armed forces and not to pay taxes. This enraged the government. The Ali brothers were arrested on charges of sedition. Anyhow, in this way, Khilafat movement also became as a part of non-cooperation movement. What was the main cause for the formation of Khilafat movement? The Caliph, the head of the Muslim religious head, had got depended on his authorities as the defeat of Turkey again by the British in Europe. Here also, Indian Muslims in India, the Muslim population turned against the British. That was the main cause which led to the formation of Khilafat movement, and Gandhiji utilized the opportunity to unite Hindus and Muslims, and he succeeded also. Objectives of the non-cooperation movement. The non-cooperation movement sought to achieve the following objectives. Then very important as well as very easy also to learn, my dear, to attain self-government within the British Empire if possible and outside if necessary. To attain self-government within the British government if possible and outside if necessary. Next, annulment of the Rowlatt Act. Annulment means which is equal to announcement, which is an announcement which is equal as law. Annulment of the Rowlatt Act and remedying the Punjab wrong. Then the British government should express its regret on the happenings in Punjab, particularly in Amritsar. So they have to give annulment of the Rowlatt Act and remedying the Punjab wrong. For the Rowlatt Act as well as for the Punjab massacre, that is Punjab Amritsar Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, for these two incidents they have to give remedies, they have to show the remedies. Next, remedying the Khilafat wrong, that is the British should adopt a lenient attitude towards Turkey and restore the old status of the Sultan of Turkey. These were the main objectives of the non-cooperation movement.